Hi everyone, let's all gather together in the merit and the schus of my mother and my father, who are both not well, have been in and out of the hospital, and things were going better, so I came back, and yeah, I'm going again. So without further ado, I just cannot tell you, when I find myself a little, going through a little challenge, learning Torah, especially the Pnimiyut Torah, gives us the strength to deal with whatever's going on in our life. Also 150, those of you who were on that class about Tehillim 150. I just want to say, that in Kuntra's Etz HaChaim, that really the Pnimiyut of the Torah, that learning the deep secrets of the Torah, really gives us the strength. And why and where do we learn it from? First of all, we learn it from back in the days with Adam and Chava. The Rebbe Rashab teaches us that the sin of Adam and Chava was not that they ate from the tree of life. I'm sorry, that they did not eat from the Eitz Hadas, which is a tree of good and evil, that they didn't eat from the tree of life. Had they eaten from the tree of life, they would have resisted and had the strength to fight the temptation of giving in to their desires, and they would have been able to withhold their temptation, and they would have not succumbed to the evil inclination or whatever inclination they had at the point. So here I am. I'm trying really hard to really do my best. I've been in and out 3 times a week in my own doctor's appointment, but what can I do? I have to right now put that aside again, and I'm really not in perfect condition to fly in a sense, but Hashem has been with me, and He will help me, deal with what's about to happen when I go there. Please God. So we know in the last chapter that that really the Shekhinah wants to be here, and it's yearning and longing to be down here with us in a more grand way, but it can't so easily come down, and it needs the garments of the Torah, our thoughts, our speech, and our actions. It acts like a garment to be able to house and the Shekhinah and enable it to come down. So just like when the Shekhinah was able to descend in the Holy of Holies, more than anything, learning Torah, especially Pnimiyut Torah, especially Halacha, allows, and all Torah mitzvahs, allows the Shekhinah to come down. Because when the temple first stood and the tablets were housed in the Holy of Holies, that's where the revealed light of the Ein Sof was. A light which intrinsically is infinite and transcends all worlds. But it was revealed in them there. And in the 10 Commandments, which were engraved upon the tablets in the Ark of the Holy of Holies. So, far more intensely, with a greater and mightier revelation than its revelation in the Holy of Holies that was in the upper worlds. So when we think about this, and we think about how incredible the descent from degree to degree, it actually is very parallel to the way the Shekhinah was coming down, world by world until the world was created. This material world was created in the same format. I don't know what's going on here, sorry, it keeps falling. No one should be falling. Not to the, oh, sorry. Here we go. Finding the place again. So the Shekhinah rested in the Holy of Holies of the first temple through being vested in the 10 Commandments. Just like when we learn Torah down here in this material world, the Shekhinah can come and become vested in this material world. And the sages tell us that the letters Mem and Samech, even though they were circular and they were hewn, like they were, carved and engraved in a sense in those tablets, like it doesn't make sense how that can be possible if, there was nothing to hold those letters into place, because it was miraculous. Right? When you carve out compared to engraved is just kind of chiseling out some of the thing, but when it's chiseled out, like there's no stone there in the tablets to have it be hanging there, because the samach is round, so there's no connection to, let's say, the tablet. So that means that it was a super miracle. And how beautiful is this that we're learning this before Shavuos? And I can't wait till we learn more, one more time at least before Shavuos. I have a goal of doing my several classes before Shavuos, even if I have to do it in the hospital when my mother is sleeping. But she should be out of the hospital already before I even land. So then now the Alter Rebbe discusses the second temple, and at the second temple, remember, those of you who listen to my Temple Within class, the huge miracle happened that in the time, I think it was about 210 years before the destruction, or was it 70 years? I'm so sorry. But there was a prophecy that there was going to be the destruction, and so the prophet was told to remove the Holy of Holy artifact of the Aron and hid it in the chamber that Shlomo HaMelech created, knowing that one time that we're going to actually have to save those tablets from the hands of the Goyim, so he created a chamber. And before the second destruction, these tablets were saved in the chamber, hidden chambers. And interesting, when I was teaching this in 770, I remember that year, the whole week teaching every day about the Beit HaMikdash, and 3 weeks, and at the end of the 3 weeks I had this incredible dream, and the Rebbe came to me in a dream, and I was following him, and I was going under, I don't know, those people who went under the Western Wall, and they show you all the different pathways underground, and they would show here is where that location was, or so many different locations from underneath, and seeing the walls underneath, like it was so incredible, because over the years things got built on that plot of land. So fascinating. But this dream, I was back under with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe opened the door of this chamber, and there was this beaming light with the holy artifacts that were stored there. So anyways, this brings to mind this idea of the second temple, because in the second temple, amongst the 5 things, one of the 5 things that was hidden in this chamber was hidden. And then it said, because of those 5 things, the Shekhinah did not abide there. Now, what does this mean? God forbid, the Shekhinah did not, how could you say such a thing? Well, there was a certain revelation of the Shekhinah during the first temple, and that certain revelation wasn't there in the second temple. It's not that it did not abide there at all. Sorry, I'm seeing battery. Here we go. So it's teaching us this difference between a greater revelation and a lesser revelation. And what we do down here helps that descent of the Shekhinah to become more revealed by our doing our Torah and mitzvahs. And that's why the Alter Rebbe brings out that in the Holy of Holies, no person was permitted to enter there except the high priest. And since the destruction of the temple, we don't have that revelation, except that God resides in the shrine of the Holy of Holies of Torah and mitzvahs. Quote, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, has but the 4 cubits of halacha alone. Torah is the shrine of the Holy of Holies that connects Hashem with the world, so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the illumination of the Shekhinah, which is Kadosh, which is from the word that means separated from the world, should become Baruch, from the Hebrew word meaning to draw down into the world. Oh my goodness, the other day, my husband was saying a beautiful Devar Torah, which I remember reading in Hayom Yom, when you do a l'chaim, and you pick up your glass, l'chaim, to life, and then you say l'chaim u'levracha, and l'chaim is to life, and u'levracha means a lev rach. Gosh, our Torah is life, and our Torah helps our heart become soft. The Torah helps our hardened heart become soft, open, and supple, as it were, so that the Shekhinah can come and rest. That's why it says, I'm sure, V'shachanti betocham, that Hashem wants to reside in all of us. That's why it's in plural, in our mind when we meditate on Him, in our heart when we contemplate and bring the knowledge, so that our second mind, our heart, will also know, so that our heart will know. And even if one person sits alone and engages in Torah study, the Shekhinah is with him, as stated in the first chapter in Brachot in the Gemara 8a. The Shekhinah is with him means that although he's a being of this material world, the Shekhinah nevertheless is with him. So, if this is thus happening for the individual, can you imagine actually what goes on when we learn in a group, which is like the whole purpose of our existence? So, So the Shekhinah can come down through this additional garment of our Torah and mitzvot. And wow, it says here that, you know, even when we fulfill mitzvot by word and thought, and saying grace after meals, and the recital of the Shema and of prayer, and even though these mitzvahs are with thought, seeking to grasp the concepts in one's studies and to experience the kavanah, the intention of these prayers, because they're not really bound with action. Meditation alone has not the validity of speech, and one does not fulfill one's obligation by meditation alone. Meaning, with kavanah alone. And even when his manner of meditation is close to speech, as in the case when one thinks about the way in which he will utter a certain word, which is kind of like a hirhur, and he does give some utterances with his lips, the motion of one's lips while one is speaking is considered action, in which case all these mitzvahs involve a form of action. So we see here it's so important to make our thoughts and our meditations, you know, attached to when we're praying to speaking. So we see here that really Torah is God's wisdom, which in its descent in the downward progression of worlds becomes the shrine of the Holy of Holies for the Shekhinah. There's an additional quality of it being the supernal will, which is even loftier than wisdom. This is uniquely found in Halacha and the Mitzvot. They are expressions of the supernal will. And Hashem's, God's will and wisdom are united with the light of the Ein Sof in a perfect union. Can you appreciate now more what's happening when you learn Torah? Like this perfect symphony of unity with Hashem? Because God founded the earth with his wisdom. Mishlei 3, Pasuk 19. This refers to the oral law that is derived from the supernal wisdom. So the Shekhinah must wrap itself, garb itself with wisdom, in the wisdom. So it's very fascinating. We were talking about the previous chapter, how much we need a lot of oil, right? To seep into the wick, to be able to allow the Shekhinah, like into a light of a flame, to be able to like hold on to us, basically, right? Like if you don't have the oil, there's just no chance that there'll be a flame. The oil will run out, the flame will be gone. Well, here it's going to focus on the importance of the wick. Also, if you don't have the wick, goodbye flame. It'll, if you know what I'm saying? If you have just oil and no wick. So the light of the Shekhinah can cling to the wick, and the wick represents our vivifying soul in our body, and it's metaphorically called a wick. Just in the case of a material candle, the light shines by the virtue of the annihilation and burning of the wick, turning it to fire. So does the light of the Shekhinah rest on the divine soul, which is the candle, the soul of man, meaning is the candle of Hashem. Now, as as a result of this annihilation of the animal soul and its transformation from darkness of the klipa to the light of holiness, from bitterness of klipa, noga, to the sweetness of holiness, this is what's happening. The intellect and the emotion is transformed into good, the evil into goodness and holiness, because this fire is destroying the garments of thought, speech, and action that are the antithesis, the negative, behaviors and thoughts and speech, all this that is opposite when we do, say not good things, and we don't do the thinking like we should be thinking and think positively, and when we, give in to temptation and we don't fight our Yetzer Hara in a sense, then let's focus on the opposite. When we end up refraining from the negative, when we do the positive, then this fire then burns away at our animalistic negative tendencies. As the Rebbe Rashav in Kuntrus HaVodah says, the more fiery your prayer, the more fiery passion, you're turning up the heat, and it's really going to be capable, like here, what it's saying, to get rid of your negative. So you can't, as previously in chapters of Tanya, it says you can't be wrestling while sleeping. The person who's sleeping is not going to win the wrestling match. You need to, up the ante. You really, gotta get moving and put your full force, thinking with full force of your mind, swaying, moving your body, physically using your lips, physically using your mouth, and almost you could hear your words, right? So the more we use our physical body in this endeavor to do Hashem's Torah and Mitzvot, the more power of this fire to eradicate the wick, our body, our animal soul, and everything that's negative about us. So we might not be able to transform the essence of our animal soul to goodness, to holiness, even the Beinoni can't even do that. Only tzaddikim. But we're so close to Mashiach, I'm sure now it's easier for all of us to do this. But when we realize at least the garments of our soul will be transformed, then life will become much easier to deal with what's going on every day in our life. Then we have greater chance to live in our skin in a better way every day of our life. When we do this, we are better for it. And I'm telling you, I know she'll probably, my dear sister Sarah, I see she's watching with us here online, and they were telling my husband and I and our guests, they were guests by us for Shabbat, we were the whole Shabbos almost together, and story after story of how each mitzvah and each added tefillah and each CBTT approach to really refining our Torah mitzvahs from studying Tanya, how transformed they both are. And they're going to share their story, and I'm going to interview them very soon, even in Israel. Who knows? We're working on something as we speak. But this is it. It really changes you. And I remember in Israel, my rabbi said that this army guy came into shul, or he was near the shul, and the Rabbi Shimla said to the army man, do you want to put on tefillin? Or did you put on tefillin? And he's almost rolling his R, no thank you. And he goes, he's like, what a minute, you're a warrior. You gotta get this. This wrapping is gonna tie up your animal soul, all the negative, it's you more than anyone should love this. You're a man of war. This is war here, and we're here to fight this Yetzer Hara, and we're here to harness its power by putting a yoke on it. So like it's a cat, you know, an ox, that you have a yoke and now you can really use it. Anyway, so it brings to mind this story. So with this in mind, when we annihilate this animal soul and transform it from darkness to light, at least our garments of our soul, meaning our thought, speech, and action, and maybe not the essence of our soul, that's only when Mashiach comes, or maybe until we're 120, we're working at it, to Al-Vai to be a Beinoni. But then here it says even a Beinoni doesn't really have that capacity to do that. So we shouldn't feel so bad. Yes, okay. So, oh my gosh, one more page. So let's draw the light of the Shekhinah. Let this oil of our Torah and mitzvahs flow into, to be able to receive this light of the Shekhinah. Let's draw down this light of the Shekhinah, and so that it can really dwell in our brain, where principally our divine soul principally dwells in the brain of the head. And that's why, remember, Yenuka says the supernal light that is kindled over one's head requires oil. For the light that is over one's head and intelligence is in need of this oil of good deeds. Thereby, one may clearly understand the text, for Hashem, your God, is a consuming fire. Oh my gosh, the whole year I've been saying, my heart is on fire, because Hashem, the fire of the heavens, and the fire of Yerushalayim is on fire. The heart of Yerushalayim is on fire, and I'm going again I'm so thankful I get another opportunity to step again so soon into Eretz Yisrael, and I'm torn, like I feel so blessed to be able to go again. But we should hear good news. But this fire is not a fire of brimstone, like what they're teaching out there. It's Chassidus 101. Hashem is love sick for you. This fire of Hashem is how much He loves you. It's a consuming fire. It's going to consume your negative. Not that He's going to consume you and swallow you up because you didn't listen to Him. A baby's told, don't touch the fire. An oven. If he doesn't listen, he gets burned. He's not being punished. Hashem's giving us these Torah mitzvahs to show us this will help us. Just as a fire can only catch on an object when the object is being consumed by it, so too regarding the light of the Shekhinah, in order for God to become your God. Meaning, it's illuminating the soul. And this illumination, for this illumination to happen, there must be a consumption by fire. Burning and annihilating the wick of the vivifying soul, so that the soul of Klippa will be transformed into the fire of holiness. Only when a person succeeds in nullifying himself to God in a manner where he ceases to exist in an independent entity and is consumed in the flames of godliness, only then he will draw upon himself the light of the Shekhinah. And this is the conclusion of 53 chapters of Tanya. Those of you know my heartache. I wrote so much and my computer got stolen many years ago. I had a computer of all my Tanya classes before I started recording on Torah Anytime, and all gone, crashed, SANE.org. I used to have this sticker for bumpers, you know, did you hug your children today? I was like, that's a good sticker. But then I thought, wow, did you learn Torah today? It's just as good as the sticker and more. So you'll more hug your children and more have that hugging, emotionally charged, beautiful feeling of happiness and love. Did you do your Tanya teaching today? Because the Tanya gives you the ammunition, it's Pnimiyut Torah, it helps you fight the battle, and then very soon, day after day, year after year, remember, you're not fighting anymore. In the beginning, it's a struggle. And the Rebbe Rashab's teaching is, if you look at the two colors of the fire, the dark part that's closest to the wick burning represents our struggle. We're like struggling through the day. It's struggling not to get angry, struggling not to get sad or depressed. And if you look at the white part of the light, eventually this struggle becomes the light. And it's so pure and it's so white, the top of the light of the flame. Eventually the struggle is less. Eventually you taste more and more of heaven on earth. Eventually you feel free from the shackles of this place called earth. If you're living it, seeing it through your own eyes. But eventually you have, as it were, the Baal Shem Tov's glasses with the teachings of the Alter Rebbe mixed together. And you can see the world more beautifully. You could see the world with emunah and bitachon, and you could see the world still with the flaming passion, even as you may be challenged by life events. And recall that in chapter 8 of Tanya, when it talks about chokhmah and your oil and your wisdom, and since we're concluding this chapter with this idea of the oil and all the necessary ingredients to make you shine, and for the Shekhinah to continuously to shine through you. And that is the idea of being very careful how you supply your body with the oil, because the Rebbe Rashab actually says if you notice when you, that's why Hanukkah we light the finest, most refined olive oil, because if it's not like the first crushed oil of the olive, then it's not as clear oil, and there's like could be little, parts of the skin, it could be a little darker oil, and then if you have a little darker oil, then the light won't be as bright. So the analogy is that, when you learn things just because you want to learn them, then you're using your wisdom, and it's likened to the oil that's a bit tainted. It's like not the first pure oil, and so then your light of your mind isn't as pure. And so whether you're watching and reading and all kinds of nonsensical things out there that doesn't mean much to your life, you're just vegging, you're just escaping, whatever. Even the sciences of the world, unless let's say you're a doctor or you need to know things about your health, but just I'm so curious, whatever. If it's to know God better and His world, of course, Rambam used to, as the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 8 of Tanya, that he used his mathematics for the calendar. So if you attach a holy reason for it, but if it's just whatever, then what one needs to understand is that you're really supplying your head and the Shekhinah with less pure oil, and that affects your brain, and that affects your purity of thought. And so much so that the Alter Rebbe actually says, remember how more challenging it is for your soul than other negative, deeds under the sun that one can do. Wow. So we know that every moment is so precious. And I just want to conclude with this, or maybe another, depending how much time I have here. I'm racing a little bit against the clock, but the Rebbe actually says that the entire goal of Chassidus is to change the nature of one's emotional qualities. And again, this book is when every moment is so precious. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to continue this, but I'll do take 2 maybe when I get back and our bride is here. I did it. Thank you, Hashem. Hashem, help me do this. Bye-bye.